Thank you very much. Hope that song woke you up. That's a song on the what is better known as a didgeridoo for our visiting brothers and sisters. It also has many names in different Aboriginal languages. My name is Matthew Doyle, and I'm a descendant of the Morawari Aboriginal nation from the far north of New South Wales. I also have Irish heritage as well, which I'm very proud of, I have to say. However, I was born here in Sydney and grew up here in Sydney. And after you've left our shores, those from travelling from overseas, I hope you would agree that Sydney is one of the most beautiful cities in the world. We're on the land of the Gadigal clan. And the Gadigal clan is one of many clans that make up the Eora Nation here in Sydney. And part of protocol, we pay our respects to our elders, past and present, and we acknowledge the Gadigal as the custodians on this land we meet today. Aboriginal Australia is made up of many nations, much like Africa. Each nation has their own language, their stories, laws, and culture. In Australia today, there are approximately 180 different Aboriginal languages right across Australia. Most Aboriginal people nowadays still live a fairly traditional way of life in remote communities. However, most Indigenous Australians today live in the cities, capital cities around Australia, in rural and the country areas. I'd like to also welcome you here in the local language. As I mentioned before, there are 180 different languages. I've been lucky enough to learn 5 languages from different parts of Australia, but I can sing in 7 languages. So. But it is appropriate to welcome you in the local language. That is Ungungamanial, Talinarangun, Panijaminka Chalkalanial, Budriyagu Kamui, which basically means hello. No, it doesn't, I'm only joking. So no, it means we welcome you to our land, not only as visitors, but brothers and sisters and as friends. And we extend our hand of friendship and hope that your return journey is a safe one and one filled with fond memories of our beautiful country. Thank you very much. Have a great conference. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. Great to see you all here, and thanks for the great opening ceremony. For those I didn't meet last night or don't already know, I'm Joanna Hewitt, Chair of ACR's Commission, and it is my great pleasure to welcome such a distinguished group of delegates to our conference here today. We're especially honoured by the presence of so many high-level delegates and the Malawian minister from Africa, but we have high-level representatives from all the countries who will be the early focus of our new Food Security Centre's work. It's a really exciting moment for us in ACR. ACR is celebrating its 30th anniversary this year, and I'm not shy to say I think it has a really proud record for delivering high-impact research results that have really made a difference, boosting returns for smallholder farmers in developing countries. 30 years ago, when the world made its last major commitment to tackle food insecurity, we knew that investment in agriculture was a powerful way to drive growth, reduce poverty, and build resilience against food insecurity. In the wake of the more recent shocking and frankly preventable food crises and the destabilising volatility we've seen in food prices, the world's attention, as we all know, is again squarely focused on harnessing the potential of the agriculture sector. All the best analysis that a group like this is aware of, from the World Bank through to the deliberations of a large number of influential institutions in Africa, confirms the view I referred to before, that there'll be enormous reward from investment in agriculture if this is done well. The idea about the opportunity in agriculture is clearly prominent in African thinking and in contemporary development strategies. But this time, unlike last time around 30 years ago, collectively, we need to stay the course and to make sure that our efforts are sustained and effective. Until recently, most of ACR's work in agricultural research for development has been done with partners in our very close neighbourhood in the Asia Pacific. But Africa, I'm really pleased to say, is now a central focus of our work, and especially since the initiative taken a year ago by our Prime Minister to establish the new Food Security Centre within ACR. Our African programs have grown from less than 5% of the total 5 years ago to nearly a quarter today. Now, there was a really compelling case for Australia's realignment in focus towards Africa. To begin with, our political and economic links with the continent are in a really vibrant growth phase. It's true that the mining sector has been a leading impetus, but we've also seen political and people-to-people level links and engagement that's much deeper than it's ever been before. I personally was honoured to visit a number of our partner countries in Africa over the last year, partly through our work in ACR, but also as special envoy of our Prime Minister. And I was really struck by the commonality of our views on many global issues and the sense of common purpose and prospects for doing things together, practical ways of working together. And I'm sure our Minister, Senator Carr, will want to say more about this when he speaks later in the morning. But turning specifically to agriculture, I've already touched on the haunting spectre of the food crises we've seen, particularly in the Horn of Africa and the Sahel, that have reignited our determination to do more to tackle this really unacceptable human cost. We're also really mindful of Africa's enormous potential. There are huge yield gaps between current and possible production, and we know that a very substantial share of the land that's not yet fully tapped but is suitable for agriculture is in Africa, along with available water resources if well managed. So the potential for enhanced productivity and enhanced scale in agriculture is clear. And frankly, unless Africa's agricultural potential is harnessed, it's very hard, I think, to see the world's food supplies meeting projected needs for the coming decades. Australia's strength in agricultural research and technology is well positioned to contribute, and we have representatives in the group today, and you'll have seen others in the conference program from our preeminent institutions, the partners of ACR like CSIRO and the universities and other Australian repositories of scientific and other skills that are relevant to our task. I think those of you who've been on the ground already on this program or at other times will have noticed the uncanny parallels across the span of African climates with what you find in Australia. And we do think there's tremendous potential for what we have learned and can do being adapted to advantage in smallholder settings in Africa. We know where we need to work outside traditional paradigms to get the scale and impact that we need, and we'll need to work seamlessly with partners. We will also have to go a lot further than typically has been done in the past to connect the dots between research and adoption. That means closer positive relationships, both here in Australia, actually, between research planners and providers and development agencies, both public and private. And it also means forging and maintaining excellent development partnerships in Africa and with the leading institutions, some of whom are, of course, also represented here at the conference today. I mentioned particularly our CG partners. We're delighted to see so many of you here today, and we're determined, as you in the system generally turn your focus much more deliberately to sub-Saharan Africa, to make sure we get the best out of the linkages that we have through the CG system to work with you and our African partners in this new food security initiative. New areas of research also have to be brought into the frame, especially in the areas of nutrition, adoption strategies that I've also mentioned, and supporting agricultural and social policies, as well as a lot more. So today, ACR's new food security team will share their fast start work, if I could call it that, that's already in progress. And they're looking to engage with you on all the centre's initial strategic directions and have your advice and guidance on our further steps. Many of you have already made a fantastic contribution to the work that's been done to date. It has been done in rapid time. It was only a year ago that the idea was presented to us, and our team have been very active in Africa and in other consultations, making sure that we're not, I hope, we're not crossing wires, reinventing wheels, doing all that unproductive sort of thing. We aim to make this a really a model initiative in terms of consultation and partnership. And turning to this session of the conference, we now want to traverse a strategic sweep and the significance of the work we want to do together. Other expert presenters, as the day goes on, will delve into details and debates, and there'll be lots of opportunity to have the whole group contribute. But from here, what we do next is see a short video we're delighted to have from the African Union. We'll hear from the visiting high-level African group, and then we'll have a keynote address from Professor Monty Jones, Executive Director of FARA, whom I'm sure you all know. So I will close here. We'll turn to the film, and when that finishes, I'd be very pleased if the Ministerial and high-level group could join me at the stage here. Thank you.
Honourable Minister of Agriculture, Government of Australia, invited guests and delegates, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. On the historic event of the launch of the Australian International Food Security Centre Strategy 2012 to 2022, please allow me to convey the very best wishes of the African Union Commission and my hearty wishes to you all. Food security is critical for human survival and sustenance, but again, it is also the challenge of our time, and we should all be concerned that 1/8 of the planet's populations still go to bed hungry every night. The paradox is that there is want in the midst of plenty. As I speak today, a good proportion of the global population are struggling with the consequences of abundance of food, while another segment of our population is struggling with a different kind of challenge, food inadequacy, hence hunger and malnutrition. This scenario is avoidable. We will put our hands on deck to solve the food challenge of our time. Indeed, the Australian government has brought up a noble cause to institute an international food security centre. The African Union Commission salutes the Australian government efforts in following through its pledged commitment of Australian $33 million at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting last year. We are also pleased to note that the initial emphasis of the strategy will be devoted to the challenging scenarios of the most affected parts of Africa. Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, let me unequivocally state the commitment of the African Union Commission, and in particular, my department, the Department of Rural Economy and Agriculture, to the success of the strategy of the Australian International Food Security Centre. I regret that due to circumstances hitherto unforeseen and beyond our control, the African Union delegation could not undertake its mission to Sydney. We, nonetheless, remain committed to join forces with all our partners, and especially the Australian International Food Security Centre, in taming the persistent food insecurity problems confronting Africa and Africans on a daily basis. I look to the rollout phase when the continent activities will commence in earnest, and we stand ready to facilitate your work in Africa at all times, as it complements the work we are doing in the framework of the Comprehensive Africa Agricultural Development Program, CAADP. I wish you all fruitful deliberations, and I thank you.
And Minister, if you would be able to first come to the lectern, and the other members of the Ministerial delegation take seats at the top table here. The high-level group is going to speak individually, briefly, to the conference, followed by the keynote address from Professor Jones. But in the first instance, if I could ask you to welcome the Honourable Professor Peter Mwanza, Minister for the Agriculture and Food Security Ministry of Malawi. Minister, if you'd like first to say a few words. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Chairperson of the Australian Commission for International Agriculture Research, Dr. Joanna Hewitt. All protocols observed, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor for me and my African brothers and sisters to be invited and participate in this high-level forum on a very important and topical subject of food security across Africa, bridging research and practice. For the honor and opportunity accorded to us from Africa to come to Australia, not only to participate in the forum, but also to have the opportunity to visit different parts of Australia and interact with different Australian farmers and agriculture experts. We are most grateful for this. I was one of the lucky ones because I was able to go to Brisbane. Brisbane is quite a long way from here. And then from there, I went to very interesting places called Toowoomba City on the plateau, and then the land beyond Toowoomba, including the upper reaches of the Murray-Darling Downs. I must say that I was very excited because I heard about the Murray-Darling Downs in my primary school days. That's many years ago. And I was told that it's a very rich agricultural land. And indeed, I saw that. For the first time, I saw something called black soils. I thought it was, well, black generally, but it is, the soil was really black. And that its water retention was amazing. It is something that I was very happy to discuss with farmers around. And then also, I was fascinated that that richness of agriculture I heard about in primary school days is still there today, and something that was very fascinating to me. Ladies and gentlemen, food security is now a huge preoccupation in most of the African countries. Food security is a topical subject when talking about economies of African countries. However, not enough has been done to learn more of its nature and its management. This is where Australia has led the way by organizing this forum, for example, but also, most importantly, by establishing the the Australian International Food Security Centre, AIFSC, which will be inter alia studying and researching on issues of food security and provide a platform for sharing and exchanging information and knowledge on food security issues. I think this is a commendable initiative by the Australians, and I would like to congratulate them for doing that, because it's really the first that I've heard of an institution established to deal with the food security situation, because food security has become now a very important subject. We in Africa, we look forward to making full use of the center and interacting with our colleagues, Australian scientists, in what could be done to promote food security issues. With this, Madam Chairperson, I once again would like to thank the organizing committee for this forum on food security across Africa, dealing with how research and results can be effectively utilized at the farmers' level. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Minister. I have as my next speaker the Honourable John Mututho, the Chairman of the Parliamentary Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Cooperatives from Kenya. I'm not sure whether I see the chairman here in the room. I had the pleasure. Yes. Thank you so much. We did have the pleasure to meet in Nairobi during a session of the Parliamentary Committee, and it's our great pleasure to welcome you here, Chairman Mututho. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joanna. Distinguished guests, like Chair said, my name is John Mututho. I'm the Chairman of the Agriculture Committee, and want to start by greeting all of you from Kenya. In Kenya, we say jambo. Jambo. No, just be careful. When you say jambo, you see an African looks at you in the eyes and then says jambo because you have to shake hands. One time I was a student here, and I learned the difference between us and you is that we shake hands every day and say jambo. Jambo. I am delighted to come here today. Not that I didn't want to come or like I would have liked to come, but because Kenya Parliament has told me to come and personally represent that big body here today. In Kenya, they have an arrangement where all the 10 ministries in the agriculture sector are represented by one committee called the Committee of Agriculture, and that Committee of Agriculture, I'm the chairman currently. It is so serious a matter in agriculture, a matter of security in Kenya, that when Australian government decided to come and choose Nairobi as a center, we all applauded down at Parliament. The reason why we do this is because it is established now from all circles, including Israel, China, and any other place, that a country that cannot control its borders, security at the boundaries, and a country that is food insecure or cannot control food security is not a country. Just forget about it. You have only two parameters to worry about: the food security and then controlling the security around the boundaries. In tackling food security, we remember those bad stories of 1984 when the whole world looked at Ethiopia and, of course, Kenya, who are the neighbors, in terms of what happened there. We don't want to revisit that. But I happened 3 years later to enjoy a scholarship from Australian government to come and study here in Australia at La Trobe University. And one of the reasons why they selected me to come and study is to try and sort out part of that problem in terms of conservation and resource economics that particular time, and worked very closely that time with the CSIRO and others. The story still remains the same, that food insecurity in Africa is a very big mystery and will require research bodies like yourselves, Madam Chair, to come and demystify what is really ailing Africa. No one can explain in any format why a big country like Congo, DRC Congo, are still importing from South Africa and they're importing from Brazil. No one still understands why in Kenya we still remain food challenged, although we have 85% literacy. We have had research for quite a long while, and our budget in agriculture now, in spite of other challenges, is still very, very heavy. No one still understands. There must be a research question there. In calling for this research question, I want to encourage Madam Chair to talk to the scientists, both social and all otherwise, so that we involve parliaments, both at African Union level and at regional level. Why we are saying this is because it looks like our major problems on the policy rather than on other technicalities. Of course, we have challenges, like if you look at the picture just behind me, it's an improvement of a very bad situation to a good situation, but it can be made better if we avoid the cows now and use small engines and so forth and so on. In China, they have been able to do it, and they're food sufficient. in one farm, which we are trying to copy in Kenya, in China, 1.2 million acres, they are feeding 60 million people, 60 and 3 million soldiers. With us, we have our challenge. We welcome you most sincerely in Nairobi, Kenya. And for my brothers and sisters from Africa, I think we have something to learn from Australia. And trust John Mututho, because I was a student here, a young man. When they do research, they mean business. It's honest, it's transparent, it's factual, it's based on science. And that is characteristic of Australian research the way I know it. And if we could be able to adapt the practices and the findings from this research body and face that very honestly, sooner than later, you will discover that the 2 billion Australian dollars will be more useful than the trillions we have received in food aid over the years, because we shall come and be able to identify our problem. I thank you again, and welcome to Nairobi.
Thank you so much, Chairman. We sometimes are conscious of not having been as present in Africa as we might have been in past decades, but we have these wonderful stories of connections that actually do go back deeply, and we're just delighted to be working with you and to have established our office in Nairobi. Our next speaker is Ms. Marcela Libombo, Delegate of the Ministry of Agriculture of Mozambique. Thank you very much.
Yes, good morning, everyone. We say bom dia in Mozambique because we are a Portuguese-speaking country. Bom dia a todos. Yes, thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Again, His Excellency Minister of Agriculture in Malawi. Distinguished guests, all protocol observes. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me a great honor to address few words on behalf of His Excellency José Pacheco, my Minister of Agriculture. He can't be here because of a pressing agenda. And we had communication to prepare this trip. Myself, I was thinking that I could not come to this meeting, but I'm very, very pleased that I arrived yesterday, and I'm here to share the Mozambican experience. I would like to thank the organizer for the excellent organization for hosting us in Sweden to attend this important conference. It is a great honor to share our experience in Mozambique and relate to food security nutrition. Mozambique has shown an impressive recovery since the restoration of peace agreement in 1992. As a result, the economy growth has in average around 8% from 1993 to 2009, and the agriculture has increased by 7% rate in the last 10 years. These results are mainly due to political and social stability, meaning that peace is extremely important if we are thinking about development. In another end, we have put in place agroeconomy policies that focus attention on provision of technical assistance to agriculture. So agriculture is really key to remove poverty of the poor population, as I heard in this morning when we started the conference. And Mozambique has put in place a program that allows to deliver improved agricultural seeds and inputs to smallholder farmers. The economic growth also allowed us to get out of the situation of being a food aid-dependent country. And in the last 10 years, since 1990, Mozambique is now a producer and exporter of food crops such as maize, beans, bananas, cashew nut, cotton, and cassava. And the poverty level has decreased by 15%, decreasing from 71 to 54. We also have made progress in reducing the level of acute and chronic food insecurity. Although the figures show that we have challenges, in fact, in average, 250,000 of people goes to bed with an empty stomach. Food insecurity, chronic food insecurity is about 35%, and about 80% of children are under 5 are underweight. And stunting is in average 42%, which is extremely high. We really need to accelerate our work in order to decrease or to reverse this situation in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, we will only be successful to tackling food insecurity and stunting by taking a multi-sectorial approach. Food security and nutrition is everyone's business. This is why the government of Mozambique has joined the Scaling Up Nutrition movement as an early riser country. We are also committed with the process of Comprehensive African Agricultural Development Program, CADAP, and now we are so delighted to be here in this conference to express our high commitment with the initiative of the Government of Australia in relation to ensure food security across Africa. To conclude, I would like to say that the global initiatives are extremely important, and it adds value to our national process, such as the Poverty Reduction Action Plan, the Agrarian Sector Strategy for Development of Plan, which includes the Master Plan for Agrarian Research, Multi-Sectorial Action Plan to Reduce Stunting, and the Food Security Nutrition Strategy and its Action Plan, aim to ensure the progressive realization of food security of all Mozambicans. I'm so pleased to be here. Thank you. And with these words, I will say thank you so much for being here.
Obrigada, Ms. Libombo. Thank you. Our next speaker is Professor Jean-Jacques Mbonigaba Muhinda, the Director General of Rwanda's Agricultural Board. Bienvenue.
Good morning, everyone. We do also say bonjour in French for those who... So, honorable ministers who are present here today, excellencies, high commissioners, the chairperson, distinguished participants. It's a great honor for me today to be allowed to deliver a short brief to you on behalf of my Minister of Agriculture and Animal Resources, Dr. Agnes Kalibata, who did not manage to come here today, on Rwanda's priorities towards ensuring sustainable food and nutrition security. As you all know, Rwanda is a small country, very highly populated, with almost 12 million people, of which more than 80% of our population depend on agriculture. the sector today contributes between 30 to 34% of the national GDP. So you can understand the challenge that our country is facing as far as food security is concerned. Our sector mission, like most of African countries, is to ensure food security for the country through increasing production for both agriculture and livestock. To achieve this great mission, we have decided on some sector strategic orientations, including diversification and intensification of plant, animal, and fish productions, diversification of income and employment sources for our rural populations, linking product, agriculture and livestock product to both internal and regional and even international markets, and also sustainable management of natural sources, particularly soil and water. Of course, we have a strategic priority on farmers' professionalization. According to our National Investment Plan for Agriculture Transformation, we have set some priority programs that the government is focusing on today to ensure food and nutrition security. One being a national program on intensification of agriculture through promotion of land use consolidation. Our country actually is characterized with smallholding farming system, and consolidating land for use is extremely important for us. Another subcomponent for this program is on access to improved input in terms of both fertilizers and seeds. We do provide also proximity extension services to our farmers through both public and private extension service providers. Another priority program for our government today towards ensuring food security is on post-harvest handling and storage. Basically focusing on post-harvest losses reduction and also providing drying storage facilities to our farmers. Irrigation and mechanization infrastructure development is also another priority program for especially the drought-prone areas of the country. It's not that dry like in Australia here, but we do have areas with irrigation needs. Modernization of livestock is also another government program, basically through genetic improvement for both dairy and meat industries. And our last priority program for our National Investment Plan is promoting innovative and integrated research for development. Despite tremendous achievement in implementing these programs, we still have a huge challenge, like most of African countries, on sustaining this effort for food security, but also improving the nutrition status for our population. We do have available food today, but we do still have a lot of malnutrition cases in the country. So you understand that ensuring food availability is not enough by itself. Currently, my institution and my ministry in general were involved in some partnership activities with the Australian organization, including a participation in the cropping system for food security activities through a seamless initiative. We do some work as well on crop nutrition and the biofortification for improved nutrition in partnership with some Australian institutions, CG centers, and other players, especially on developing iron-rich climbing beans for improved nutrition. We do some work also on vitamin A-rich orange sweet potato with Australian and other partners in research. We also participate in the integrated nutrient management modeling in tropical cropping systems through the UPSIM initiative with the Australians. And very recently, we have just started another joint program with the ICRAF, Ethiopia, Uganda, on trees for food security through evergreen agriculture. I'm sure Dennis Garrett is going to elaborate this sometimes today. Just to conclude, my institution and my country in general is looking forward for an improved partnership and support in agriculture from Australia, given several similarities in cropping systems between the Australian continent and Africa in general. I thank you so much for your kind attention.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Directeur Général, and I'm going to run out of languages very soon, I'm sure. Thank you so much. Next we have Mr. Julius Mukalazi, who is the Director General of the National Agricultural Research Organization of Uganda. Welcome, Director General.
Good morning to you all. My name is, as indicated, is Julius Mukalazi. I work as a Director of Research in NARO, one of the zonal research institutes, ABI, in West Nile of the country. I'm representing the Director General NARO, Dr. Emile Tuinamesko, who did not manage to make it, and at the same time representing the Minister of Agriculture, who also was not able to make it. I'm delighted to be here to attend this Australian International Food Security Conference, representing my country. I'd want to note that Uganda is highly supporting the initiatives aimed at addressing food security initiatives in Africa. Uganda has made a considerable effort to develop agricultural and food security-related policies and frameworks that guide strategies to improve food security. Some of the strategies include Uganda's Food Security and Nutrition Policy of 2003, the Agro-Processing and Marketing Plan, the National Agricultural Research Policy, the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries Development Strategy Investment Plan of 2010 to 2014, and the policy that is in place, the National Seed Policy. And currently the policy and the plans are focused on increasing food production and productivity of major crops and linking farmers to markets in line with the liberalization policy. From 2010, the government is pursuing a commodity-focused policy approach to support value chains of what are considered to be strategic enterprise. And some of these strategic enterprises include being supported, given its extra support, are coffee, tea, maize, beans, cassava, banana, fish, cattle, beef, and poultry. And you realize that all these are, the extra support given is aimed at improving the food security among the farming communities in the country. And with the intervention of the Australian International Food Security Center, the initiative will be very highly welcome, and Uganda will give much support to enable this initiative perform or be implemented in Africa. I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Asante Sana, to the Director General. And our last high-level speaker this morning is Her Excellency Mrs. Jacqueline Zwambila, the very energetic and engaging Ambassador of the Republic of Zimbabwe, based here in Australia. Thank you, Ambassador.
Ms. Joanna Hewitt, Chair, Commission for International Agricultural Research. Honorable Professor Peter Mwanza, Minister of Agriculture and Food Security of Malawi. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests. It is indeed an honor for Zimbabwe to share its experience at this historic launch platform of the Australian International Food Security Centre strategy for 2012 to 2022. I present an address made by the Honorable Prime Minister of Zimbabwe, Mr. Morgan Tsvangirai, which was held at Humanikwa village in Buhera on the 16th of November, 2012. It is indeed, why would I be doing this? But the speech is pertinent to the topic of this conference, as it was addressing chiefs and traditional leaders in rural Buhera, where the Prime Minister presided over a demonstration to show the link between smallholder farmers, technology, agriculture, and food security in a community dominated by rural smallholders in a semi-arid area with exhausted soils and precarious weather problems. And so I quote the Prime Minister's speech. I started, and I being the Prime Minister, I started this project on a mere 2-hectare plot out of a conviction to try out an alternative model which I believe could turn out to be one of the solutions to the perennial conflict between household food insecurity and the rising pressure on the available land resources in Zimbabwe's communal lands. While the fast-track land program in Zimbabwe provided an opportunity for a major structural breakup of the agricultural sector as we inherited it from colonialism, it did not address the fundamental push factors for conflicts and confusion in land ownership and land use, thus further compounding an already messy historical national grievance. A major downside of the program is that it converted all farmland in Zimbabwe to dead capital almost overnight. By 2008, agriculture output had dropped to minus 40% in a short 8 years, with far-reaching consequences for food and household security, employment, and the entire economy. The answer, therefore, lies in a scientific, well-thought-out, and technologically driven use of what we have. In other words, the focus should be on maximum production on the barest minimum pieces of land, depending on the physical on-site capacity of every ecological region to carry out particular agricultural programs. Land as a finite resource can never deliver without a healthy mix of technology, expertise, capital, peace and tenure security on our request for poverty reduction and sustainable agrarian reform. I am advised that with sufficient technical inputs and scientific interventions and expertise, one can get as much as 10 tons of maize from each hectare. And this he was referring to the irrigation demonstration which he was presiding over. I therefore decided to try it out in a dry land like Buhera so that I could lead by example. I believe that with the right tools, supporting institutions and technological expertise, Zimbabwe can produce more on less land, thus enabling a smallholder to make a breakthrough into the mainstream economy. My plan is to dispel the myth that the larger the farm size, the better. Under this concept, my vision seeks to see through a pilot project involving an initial 100,000 hectares of communal land under this model. I believe if we are able to produce enough cereals under this business model, it will be possible for a farmer to venture into intensive poultry and livestock production at the same time. By international standards, Zimbabwe has abnormally large commercial farms, many of which are lying fallow due to political events surrounding our recent past capitalization and underuse of land. Agriculture requires good governance and clear fundamental pillars that are firmly underwritten by solid and responsive institutions. Agriculture must tackle poverty as a primary issue in a sustained manner to guarantee food security and improve rural livelihoods, and agriculture must stabilize communities through rural development. Production and poverty reduction, especially in the rural areas, shall continue to haunt us unless we embark on a carefully planned smallholder improvement program to help our farmers to take part in the mainstream economy through intensive agriculture. More importantly, new technology in agriculture research, either locally developed or imported and adapted to our own ecological conditions, shall provide the necessary relief to many farmers, especially semi-arid areas like Buhera. As an example, the restoration of seed, fertilizer, machinery, and irrigation remain invaluable to the revival of the sector. Agriculture, if fully exploited and developed, could be a major stimulant to rural development at a local level and to boost industrial growth on a national scale. This will absorb the surplus labor, generate wealth, and enhance demand in the rural areas. I thank you.